Today's podcast sponsor is MailStore. MailStore is the email archiving software for Microsoft Office 365 and Exchange that enables you to automatically prune the mailbox sizes of your users, keep a perfect copy in case of accidental deletion or malware attack, and it's also great for compliance such as GDPR. Available for servers or as a multi-tenant service provider edition version that you can host yourself as an MSP, head on over to mailstore.co.uk/TubTalk for an incredible introductory offer just for TubTalk listeners and for a free 30-day trial.
You're listening to Tub Talk, the podcast for IT business owners, with our featured conversation with Richard Tubb and Paul Green of MSP Marketing Edge. My name is Jeff Nicholson, and this podcast is all about helping you grow your IT business. In this episode, Richard talks with Paul Green of MSP Marketing Edge, based in Milton Keynes, which supports IT solution providers and managed service providers with their marketing efforts. You'll hear how Paul's experience of running a B2B marketing company helped him move into the IT niche, why he thinks writing a book is a good idea, and why the MSP business model means owners don't see the need for marketing. This episode was recorded between Richard at home in Newcastle and Paul in his office in Milton Keynes. And now, without further ado, here's Richard Tubb talking with Paul Green.
Hi everyone, Richard Tubb here and another interview today. I'm joined today by a new friend of mine, Paul Green, who is the owner of MSP Marketing Edge. Now, MSP Marketing Edge are a Milton Keynes-based business aimed at helping IT solution providers and managed service providers with their marketing efforts. Paul grew and then sold a very successful B2B marketing company prior to IT support marketing. So he knows what successful marketing really looks like. Paul, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on Tub Talk. I'm an avid listener, and it's kind of cool to actually be here on the podcast.
Well, I'm honoured you would join me. Let's jump straight in and address something up front. So you and I have become friends over the past few months. I'm from a very techie, geeky background. You are not a techie, no. Although you are a geek to a degree. We'll touch upon that later on. But you're not from a techie background. Like me and many other MSP owners, you didn't own an IT support business, but you see that as a strength, don't you, when it comes to working with MSPs? Tell me
I do, yeah, absolutely. I work with it's probably getting on for nearly 100 MSPs quite closely, whether that's over things like Facebook or face-to-face. And the fact that I'm not coming at everything from a technical aspect, I believe is an advantage, because it means I can step back and, let's use a cliche, almost like have a helicopter view. So I understand what it's like to be a business owner. You know, I was the guy that at 30 quit a job, which was actually quite a well-paid job in the media, started a business in my bedroom, which felt like a really good idea at the time. And, you know, I've been through all the emotions and the highs and lows and oh my God, I can't make payroll, the cash flow crises, the first few staff, the taking out of premises, all the stuff that your average MSP does over a decade. I did that. It's just, it wasn't a technical business. It was a marketing business. It's actually exactly the same model. We were selling services on a recurring revenue basis. It's just what we were delivering wasn't technical stuff. So I always come at it from the business owner's point of view. And when I'm working with someone, with an MSP, I don't really want to get bogged down in, is Continuum great or not? Should I buy IT glue or should I not? You know, and I'm happy to have those conversations. And the fact that I've just said those two things, you know, I'm obviously aware of stuff, having worked with MS3s for a couple of years, but I don't want to get bogged down in that kind of stuff, because I want to be able to stand back and say, I mean, let's take Continuum, you know, as a concept, outsourcing your low-level grunt work to another company that can do it better and faster than you, if it works, in principle, is a bloody great idea, because that frees you, the business owner, and your top technical staff to focus in on the things that make the biggest difference to the clients. So the things I'm interested in are helping business owners have a great life, helping business owners free themselves from the prison of their own business, And typically that's done through great marketing, because if you can get more new clients and you can get your existing clients to choose to buy more from you, that delivers a level of freedom. So the fact that I don't come from an MSP background, as I say, I believe it's an advantage. I really do.
Yeah, I think it is as well. And I'm going to look at it from a different perspective. So I am a techie, I'm a geek, as we've touched upon there. So I used to run an MSP myself. Interestingly, the flip side of the coin is a lot of the work that I do, people outside the IT industry say, hey, Rick, there's stuff you talk about for the IT industry, that's applicable to my business. And I'm a florist. I'm I work in real estate and things like that. So I totally get it. I think good business is good business, isn't it? Yeah, regardless of what your background is.
It is. The business I sold in March 2016 specialized in healthcare marketing. So vets, dentists and opticians, all business owners. And if you put a vet, in particular a vet and an IT owner together in a room, they'd have 80% of their business is the same. So MSPs fix computers and stop computers breaking. Vets do the same to animals. Vets are moving right now from a break fix model to a recurring revenue model. They have that hassle of someone's got to be there at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, because that's when the phone starts ringing, or in their case, animals coming through the door. It's literally exactly the same business, and no surprise, they have exactly the same challenges. It's keeping control of costs. It's finding good staff, keeping good staff, because both MSPs, both the technical sector and the veterinary sector, have real problems getting qualified staff to stay. It's the fact that clients stay for years, which is good, but their expectations go up and they want the bills to go down. It's that they're almost identical businesses, and that's where I come at it, from that 80% of things that make the biggest difference.
So before we talk about the MSP Marketing Edge and specifically what you do for IT companies, let's rewind a little bit, because you've got a very interesting past. We've already touched upon the B2B marketing company. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. But you've also alluded to a couple of things, business owners building a prison of their own making. I'd like to hear more about that. But you shared something just before we went on air and started recording today that I didn't know about you, and that you used to be a radio presenter.
Yes, I did. Yes. I started, I failed an A-level in, God knows, 1991. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I couldn't then go to university. In the year that I was resitting my economics A-level, I got a job on a newspaper and selling advertising, which is awful. But then I moved on and became a journalist, and they trained me up to be a journalist. And then after 3 years, when I was about 23, I think it was, I basically auditioned for the local radio station. And I was in Northampton. So I was looking for a radio station called Northampton 96, which is now a Heart. All the stations I've ever worked at are now called Heart. and I got into radio, and I started as a newsreader and then became a presenter, and then went on to be a program controller. So that's someone who's in charge of the programming. And then I was running stations, and I did 10 years in radio, and I love radio and I miss it. I miss it every day. And last year I did a couple of radio shifts for a friend, and remembered it's like an old jumper you put on, and first you put it on, you're like, oh, this is so cozy, this jumper, and then you remember why you stopped wearing the jumper. So radio, like any job, sounds all showbiz and glam, but ultimately you're sat in a room on your own talking to thousands of people who aren't listening. So it's, I got out of that, and I ultimately had if you've ever read the E-Myth Revisited.
Oh, I have. It's a Bible for me.
It is. It's a great book, and you'll remember then Michael Gerber talks about the entrepreneurial seizure, where you get that thought in your head that I've got to start my own business. And that was me at 28, 29. And I did what so many people have done. I spent a couple of unhappy years working for someone else. And then I'm like, right, I'm going to start my own business. And I quit my job and started in a bedroom and started that journey. And the journey for me has been almost identical to the journey of virtually any business owner, which is start with self-employment, throw yourself into it, 80-hour weeks. You don't care getting up at 6 in the morning and going to bed at 10 at night, because you're your own boss. And then you start to eventually get too busy, so you take someone on, and then before you know it, you've got premises, and before you know it, you said it yourself, locked in a prison. I can't remember which book I read it in. There's a business book. I read a business book every week, and one of them I've read at some point said most business owners create a prison of their own design and lock themselves inside. And that's exactly what I did. And I woke up at 35 And it's, I think I'd got 3 staff and we were turning over about 250, but the business didn't happen if I wasn't there. I think it was a PR business, a public relations business at the time, and I hated it. And in 5 years, I'd gone from this passion and this entrepreneurial seizure, I've got to start a business, to literally, I was the worst employee in the business, and I was the owner. And I meet so many people like this. There were so many MSPs, because an MSP is a great model and a terrible model at the same time. What makes it great is huge levels of recurring revenues. People need it as much as they want it. And, retention. I've never known any industry, anywhere, any sector which keeps clients for so long. You can meet someone who's been going 12, 15 years and they've got clients from day one. They've still got them 12, 15 years on. It's insane. But I think this is also what makes it bad, because I think it makes MSP owners lazy. And so there are so many people just pootling along, fixing stuff, bit of proactive work. The money's coming in every month. They're just kind of there and keep going, and they haven't got any passion for the business anymore because they're locked in that prison. But because the money just keeps turning up, that they keep turning up, and it's very easy to just do that for 5 to 10 years and not realize that you are locked in that prison.
Yeah, agreed. So what changed for you then? So you'd sort of built this business. You were quite successful by any measure. What changed for you to say, okay, I want to move on?
Well, my wife and I were trying for 5 years to have a baby, and it wasn't happening for no reason. There was nothing wrong with either of us. Although our fertility consultant said she was old and I was stressed, which was nice. And we went through some IVF, and we did 3 rounds of IVF, and we had a baby. But unfortunately, she was born 15 weeks premature. So she was born at 25 weeks, and she's fine now. She's 8 and insanely cool now. But at the time, we literally had an hour's notice, and suddenly there was a baby. And I kind of just dropped away from the business, and I was 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning, sat in hospital in Kettering of all places, texting my 3 staff saying, oh my God, the baby's arrived. I don't know what's happening. They don't think she's going to survive. Can you just do what you can? And it actually went on for 3 months. She was in hospital for 3 months, and I removed myself, because sometimes as business owners, we can be physically in the room, but we're mentally elsewhere. And my wife needed me, and I mentally left my business and physically left it, and I was keeping in touch, but literally a phone call now and again. And I was there for my wife, and it was very good for us. And our daughter was amazing with her progress through hospital. And then I kind of went back to work, and I was terrified that there would be no business, because my right-hand person, a lovely lady called Claire, I'm still in touch with today, I'd given her all the bank login details and told her what she should be doing, just said, look, just get on with it. And I'd kind of expected to go and there'd be no business. And actually, it turns out they'd done slightly better without me being there.
So how did that make you feel? Because I've gone through exactly the same process myself.
Because it wasn't planned, I was relieved, and then offended, and then terrified. I remember sitting in my office. We had a little rented, like a farm unit that we rented at 6:10 in the morning on the first day I was back, thinking, oh my God, they've fixed this. They've actually got a new client in. They've kept the payroll going. We've got more cash in the bank than I'm here. And when I got back and talked to them all and bought them all a coffee and said, well done. And I said, so what made the difference? And they looked at each other and laughed and said, well, you weren't here creating chaos. And I realized that in my drive to try because I really wanted to grow this into a big business and to free myself and all of that. And in my drive to do that, I was just constantly diverting their attention off what they were trying to do and coming up with stupid ideas. So virtually from that week on, I stopped going into the office so much. So I worked full time in the business, but initially I would work out Starbucks, Costa, McDonald's, anywhere with Wi-Fi and power. That was my office. And then I'm speaking to you now from an office I have near my home. We actually moved an hour away from where our work office was, and I got a separate office unit, so I've got somewhere to work, but without, I can't be interrupted by staff, by family or whatsoever. And the business just grew. I mean, I can't remember the figures now, but we flipped the business model. We moved to a recurring revenue model. We completely changed what we did. We came up with a niche focus on the healthcare. Forget the word healthcare. Niche focus is the key lesson for that, and it grew and grew and grew. At its peak, we were doing a 7-figure turnover, 6-figure EBITDA. We had 15 staff at its peak. fact, here's an interesting lesson. I made 3 of them redundant, and the workload didn't change. The work being done didn't change, but the profits went up. That was quite an interesting lesson, and in overstaffing. And then we sold it in March 2016. I can't tell you how much because I'm still in my within my sort of restricted zone on that. But it was a nice premium sale, and I walked away. I did a 6-week handover and more or less walked away. And the reason that we sold that business was it was a great business. It was a cash flow positive. It operated without me, so I was still steering the ship. But at that point, I was going into the office. I think it was like 2 hours on a Thursday morning. I called that Angry Thursdays, where I'd go in and get angry with everyone and then sort of walk away. But it was highly systemized. The staff knew what they were doing. I went on a 3-week cruise 6 months before, and they barely even noticed I was gone. It was that kind of level of disengagement. And I sold it partly because I was bored, and partly because we obviously had a good offer. But that was a very interesting. We did that in 6 years, and that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
That is a fantastic story, and I totally empathise with the, when you realise the business can run without you, and on a rational level, that is fantastic. On an emotional level, an ego level,
I remember going to the cinema because I like daytime cinema for breaks and thinking and motivation. I remember going to the cinema about a year before I sold it and coming out and turning on my phone, and there was nothing, literally nothing. I'd been gone for 3 hours, sucked into a Marvel film. There were no texts, there was no WhatsApp, there was no email, there was literally nothing. I rang my ops manager and said, "Is everything all right?" And she's like, "Yeah." It's almost like, what do you want? But the very last guy I employed, a guy called Aaron, I can't even remember his surname. He didn't know who I was. And he said to the staff about the third Thursday to see me come in, like, "Who's that guy that comes in on a Thursday morning?" And that's when you kind of realise I've really detached from, what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Maybe I detached too much, but I do look back now with rose-tinted glasses and think, what if I'd kept it? We could have been on 3 million by now. And it's always easy to say that, but that's certainly the way to do it. And some of the MSP owners I work with today, the ones who are growing the fastest without having heart attacks and strokes are the ones that are in that position where they go into the business by choice. They don't go anywhere near the phones. They don't go anywhere near the clients. They don't get dragged into, can you just? No one knocks on the door to say, "We haven't got any milk. We haven't got any paper from the printer." Because all of that is clutter, and it's that clutter that just gets in the way of the big issues, the big things you want to do. In fact, the most successful MSP owners I work with have more holidays and spend the least amount of time in the office. There's one in particular I'm thinking of who will go into his office for 2 or 3 hours a month. And his is the fastest growing with the highest level of recurring revenue and the best staff. And that's because it's had to be that way to give him the lifestyle he wants.
So let's talk a little bit more about how you help MSPs then. So the MSP Marketing Edge, what does that look like? And obviously there's a huge marketing element to that. The clue is in the title there. However, I'm getting the impression that you're also helping businesses to avoid the mistakes that you made, if I can go as far as say that.
Exactly. No, exactly that. So there's 2 cool things I do. Having kind of semi-retired a few years ago, I got bored very quickly and realised I'd sold my income stream and I didn't want to live off my capital. So I couldn't work with the vets, dentists and opticians, and I looked around and found tech support and IT support as I thought of it back then. And I've had a few clients over the years, delved into the market. I subscribed to your list. I found other people, and I realised I am a geek, as you said. I'm not particularly technical, but I do love talking about computers and technical solutions and all of that kind of stuff. And very quickly I identified there are gaps in the market. The biggest gap, which we're trying to fill here in the UK and soon to launch in the USA, is that most MSPs aren't very good at marketing, and it's the world of marketing has changed around them. So the MSP Marketing Edge is stuff that we give to an MSP, just one MSP per area every month, that they can use as their marketing material. So I'm not going to go through all the stuff because there's loads of it, but we give them guides, for example. We ghostwrite books. So we've just written a new book about all the Microsoft software that's expiring in January. So that's a massive marketing opportunity. We've got press releases, videos, emails, Facebook posts, LinkedIn, all that stuff. And the idea is we dedicate an enormous amount of time centrally to creating this huge bunch of content, and then we give it to, let's say, one MSP in Reading, one in Swindon, Swindon, one in Oxford, and locks out all the others. So the idea is within their area, they can use it to get new clients. And we've made the price of that very, very low. So we've got about, it's nearing about 90 MSPs in the UK that use that now. And can I plug the website?
Oh, go for it. I was going to say, I think nearly all of my my own MSP clients work with you, so absolutely go for it.
Actually, we do seem to share quite a lot of clients, and thank you. I know you've mentioned the past, so thank you. It's mspmarketingedge.com, and there's a little thing on there you can go in and put your area in to see if someone's beaten you to it, basically, or if it's still available. So that's the one thing, and that's my big passion project, because we have a huge Facebook group that goes with that, and it's really nice to support people in A, getting new clients, and B, upselling their existing clients, which is the sort of the second part of that. The other thing I do is I have some mastermind groups, and they're full and will probably be full for the next number of months. And I have only 2 groups because I get tired if I have more than 2 groups, which makes me sound a bit weak, but I've done this for years, and I like having a small group and getting really in deep with that group. And we meet once a month in Milton Keynes, which is where I live. There's 13 MSP owners in a room, and we just talk, but it's a structured talk. We talk about which suppliers are good, which suppliers aren't good. Your name comes up every month. Nigel Moore's name comes up every month. We talk about how to get new clients, what's new. We've just put together an enormous LinkedIn strategy. The 2020 thing about the Microsoft software expiring, that came out of one of those groups when we were just talking about it, and someone flagged it up, and it's just become an amazing environment, safe environment with no recording, no notes. What's said in the room stays in the room, to make more money, and that's the goal of that room, is to make more money. We've helped people fire people. We've helped people lose a business partner by choice. We've helped people to steal tech from someone else. Certainly loads of new clients and massive amounts of upselling. And we've identified something like 40 different recurring revenue streams as well, which is probably the most exciting thing that's come out of that. Because for those that have gone and done that, it's just, we all know that to sell more services to the people you're already dealing with is more profitable than getting new clients.
Yeah, well, let's talk about upselling to existing clients a little bit more in a moment. But I'm just fascinated from your experience coming from outside the IT industry, to within the MSP industry and helping IT business owners now. Answer me this simple question with probably a big answer. Why are MSP businesses so crap at marketing themselves?
Because they don't need to be good at marketing. It's as simple as that. As I was saying earlier, you can keep a client for 10 years, and it's a very long sales cycle. So most of the decent clients already have an MSP, and the sales cycle for them leaving that incumbent that they're unhappy with, even if they're unhappy, they'll stay for another couple of years. It can take 6, 9, 12 months to get in at that right point, educate them, emotionally connect with them, move them over. So I think 2 reasons. One is that you don't need to be good at marketing because you keep clients forever. But secondly, the marketing is actually quite hard in this marketplace. This is where MSPs do differ from vets. Say a vet can put something on Facebook tomorrow and have 5 new clients in the morning. I kid you not, it can be that simple, because they're dealing with consumers, and it's very emotional because it's about dogs and cats. And ultimately, the commitment to the vet is very low. You turn up, you don't like the vet, you go to a different vet. Someone moving from one MSP to another is a major commitment. You handing over your server, all of your stuff, your technology to someone else, the potential risks are huge. And this is why MSPs have this great retention. It's called inertia loyalty. It's the same reason you stay with an accountant years past the point you really should leave that accountant. It's exactly the same as MSP. There's loads of marketing out there. There's all sorts of advice, and B2B MSPs is not difficult. It's basic B2B marketing. But I think, once you've got a bunch of clients, it's so easy to just stick with that and do nothing with it.
Yeah. What advice would you give to an MSP that is doing no marketing at all? How would you get them to go from nothing to something and to see the results of it?
That's a great question. I think you have to think long term. So you have to, good marketing. No, let me reverse back a second. People buy when they're ready to buy. Right now, if you think wherever you are, whichever town you're sat in, there are thousands of business owners and managers sat around you. And at this exact moment, one of them has their head in their hands. They're literally tearing out their hair because service too slow, or this is wrong, or their staff are whinging, all the common symptoms. And imagine if you could get some kind of magical, mystical thing that just connects you to that person right now. You pick up the phone, it connects to them. You would get in and you would have a meeting with them. And we all know once you've had the meeting, you're more than likely to win the sale. This is what good marketing does. And, the old days of yellow pages and all of that are gone. Even pay-per-click on Google, I would say, is no longer a strategy for most MSPs because the cost per click is just too high, apart from the really big companies. So you've got to look at it and say, well, look, people buy when they're ready to buy. How do I get the right message in front of the right person at the right time? And the only way to do that is to build an audience. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn has changed so much in the last year under Microsoft's stewardship. Surprisingly, it's got better. And I say that as not the greatest Microsoft fan in the world, but LinkedIn is a great tool to go and look for business compared to a couple of years ago. Facebook is a surprisingly great place to look for business because even business owners and managers use Facebook, and particularly in their downtime. In fact, if you can reach them in their downtime, it's better. I'm a big fan of data capture and offering people something in return for their contact details, which is fully GDPR compliant. And I think the trick is you've got to build some audiences. I try to persuade all the MSPs I work with to build an audience on, at very least, Facebook. And today that has to be done through Facebook groups rather than through a Facebook page, because Facebook page content just isn't being shown to people, whereas Facebook groups are enormous right now. So you've got to do, at the very least, Facebook. You should probably do a LinkedIn and do at least put in lots of content on LinkedIn. And you should certainly be doing data capture on your website. And the trick is to get people in and to drip, 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 drip. You don't want to hard sell them. You want to get them in, start a relationship with them, get their permission for you to market to them, and then educate them. And not about techie stuff, because no one cares about techie stuff. Literally no one. You educate them about the things that matter to them. And what matters to them is reliability, speed, and not being caught out with GDPR or anything like that. Because they don't care about GDPR, but they do care about public humiliation. They do care about fines, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Great advice. Now, we touched on it earlier. Most people, when they think of marketing, they think of reaching new clients. And of course, that's a huge part of growing a business. But in my experience, what lots of MSP owners do is overlook a massive resource, which is their existing clients. So tell us, I know you're a huge fan of sort of upselling, as it's called. Tell us a little bit more about how you educate MSPs to make the most of that resource in front of them.
Yeah, I should probably find a different word than upselling, because there's actually no selling involved. Your people buy for one of two reasons: either because they need something, which is a decision made by the brain, or because they want something, which is a decision made by the heart. 99.9% of MSP purchases, as in people buying from an MSP, is actually a heart decision. It's a want decision. Why would I pick one MSP over another? Because assuming I don't know anything about technology, which the average business owner or manager doesn't, I'm going to pick you because I like you, or I'm not going to pick you because I don't like you. And when we look at existing clients, why would someone buy more stuff from you? Because they want it. As simple as that. I'll give you a very quick example. When GDPR came in May, I was with I think this was in the MSP Marketing Edge Facebook group. We were having a discussion about what we can do what the MSPs can do to get their clients more ready for GDPR. Someone mentioned something about encrypted laptops, and we did a little quick survey of how many laptops you supporting that are unencrypted. And as you can imagine, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of laptops out there supported by my MSP clients that weren't encrypted. So we put together a really quick little phone script, and it was along the lines of this. I'll give you the whole script, because you can still use this today. If you've got any clients with unencrypted laptops, you can literally pick up the phone now and do this. Hi, is that Bob? Yes, Bob. Hi, who's that? Hi, it's Paul here from your IT support company. Listen, how are you doing, Paul? Yeah, do you know, I didn't sleep well last night. Why is that then? Well, I was thinking about you, Bob. Not in any kind of weird way, but as I went to sleep last night, it suddenly occurred to me that you've got, how many laptops have you got in the business? You've got 17. Okay. You've got 17 laptops in the business, and according to our records, they're not encrypted. Well, what does that mean? Well, what that means is, let me put it in layman's terms. If you lost one of those unencrypted laptops on a train, someone, a hacker, without much difficulty could bypass the password and could access your data. Right. And the problem with that is, now that GDPR is in, you would have to ring the ICO and tell them about it. And you'd have to contact all of your clients, in fact, every single human being who's on your laptop, which is probably everyone you know, and tell them you've lost that laptop, which is just a major embarrassment. At which point, Bob, the client, is saying, oh my God, yeah, this is awful. What can we do about it? And of course, that's the point you bring in Bitdefender, or introduce your favorite encryption tool here. Do it as a service. Don't do it as a one-off. It's an encryption service. It's $382 a month per laptop. Should I just get that sorted out for you? Which is the upsell question. And you look at something like that, and Bob now is going to put down the phone and go, oh. And emotionally, he's not going to be sitting there thinking, bloody IT firm has sold me more stuff. He's going to be sitting back emotionally and thinking, thank God someone's looking out for us. Thank God we can make that problem go away for just the price of a coffee per laptop per month. Of course, for the MSP, it's another £2 or £3 of gross profit per laptop per month for the next 10 years. And that's, in my mind, that's what good upselling is about. All of the MSPs I work with, I really recommend they do strategic reviews every year. So yes, you can do things like the ad hoc phone calls just to sell more services when you've got something that comes up. But the real power is in sitting down with every client, even the one-man band clients, sitting down with every client once a year and doing a review. And the review is not about the technology. The strategic review is about the business's future. What are you doing? What are you looking to do? What are you worried about? What do you want? What do you need? What expansion plans have you got? All of that kind of stuff. And most MSPs, when they sit down and have those conversations with clients, every single time an opportunity comes up. And this isn't selling. This is actually making someone happy. And the great thing is, the more stuff you sell them that they choose to buy from you, the longer they'll stay. There is an absolute direct correlation because it feels as though you are meeting their needs more often.
That's fantastic, Paul. And, that script that you gave there, as simple as it is, I think you flipped it. You flipped the sales process around for most MSPs that I come across who are scared of selling because they think, they're trying to persuade somebody to do something. What you've, in that little scenario you've explained there, you are helping somebody to avoid something terrible happen to them, and why wouldn't they do it? You're just absolutely helping with them. So
I don't believe you can actually sell MSP services. I really don't. I think what you can do is you can educate people and let their heart give them space to think and give them space to feel. It's like buying a car. We've all been into a showroom and looked at a car, and the worst salespeople just want to show you all the gadgets. They want to get you out the test drive, all of that. The bet I bought a new car a few weeks ago, and the sales guy was great. He was 70. He was the oldest sales guy there. And he says, I'm the most successful. I sell 5 times more cars. Do you know what my secret is? I said, no. He says, I'm going to ask you lots of questions about the kind of car you're looking for. So it was a secondhand one from like a big car supermarket. He said, I'm going to put you in front of a couple of cars, and I'm going to leave you. And you'll decide which one you're going to buy. You'll buy a car today. And he was right. I've got a BMW 5 Series. It's a lovely car. And I sat in it for 20 minutes, pressing buttons, imagining myself. And I'd bought that car in my heart before we even did the test drive. He didn't need to sell it. In fact, he was dealing with 3 people at once, which was fascinating to see him do it. MSPs, it's exactly the same. If you find yourself having to sell it, you've got it wrong. All you've got to do is educate them about the problems or the benefits. It's like this 2020 thing. Microsoft in 2020 end of life thing, Small Business Server 2011. I think it's Exchange 2010, Windows 7. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's ending January 2020. And, all you've got to do is have enough of the right conversations with people who are affected by this, which will be at least half your client base. And at some point, hopefully before they get to November 2018, they'll do something about it because you've educated them. Whereas right now, they perceive there's no problem. And we haven't got to sell anything. We've just got to keep telling them about it.
Yes, makes a lot of sense. Now, let's rewind a little bit and touch on something you mentioned earlier on. This is something I know very well for myself, and it's the idea that a book really enables you to be perceived as an expert in your industry, whether you are or you're not. Now, I've got a couple of books out there. I'll leave the listeners to decide whether I'm an expert in my industry or not. To answer that question, but you're helping to educate your MSPs that you're working with about the idea of getting books out there. Explain that concept a little bit more, because I've seen some of the books that have come out, and I've got to say I'm really impressed with them.
Oh, thank you very much. Books are amazing because we place a value on them that's higher than. You take I've written 9 books. I forget how many. I've actually written the same book 9 times because every time I go and work with the market, I rewrite the book for that marketplace, and I'm quite open about that. But there's nothing beats a book for branding you as an expert, because the perception is that publishing a book is difficult. The perception is that you can't be an author unless you're the best. The perception is that it's expensive to write a book. And that's simply not the case. You can take content and put it in a PDF. You could take a book and put it in a PDF and it has zero value, because we've all got folders on our laptops absolutely chocker with PDFs. And, I'm subscribed to all the vendors' emails, just as everyone is, and I've got, literally hundreds of the things. I haven't read any of them, and yet the 2 or 3 things that I have read are the print things that have been sent to me by 1 or 2 select vendors that have decided to go that extra step. And this is why I started publishing books, and I publish my own books. About 6-7 years ago, and I have a book called "Updating Servers Doesn't Grow Your Business," which is for MSPs, and it's free, and it's we had 5,000 copies printed. There's about 3,000 sat. It's still in a warehouse in Essex. That cost me 49 pence per unit because we had them printed by a proper book printer, but I wrote the book and my designer designed it.
Well, you were kind enough to send me a copy. It's a great book, and it's a great looking.
Thank you very much. Well,
it shattered my illusion.
Professionals did it. That's the thing, I'm a writer, trained writer from the start of my career. Which is, but if I wasn't, I'd just get it ghostwritten. And people per hour is the great place to go for ghostwriters because there are more writers out there than there are people who want stuff written. My designer is excellent. The book printers are excellent, and you put all of this together, and it's not a book. It's a business card. It's a 49 pence business card that you got, and it's probably going to sit on your bookshelf because you were probably told as a kid, just like I was, that books are precious. We don't damage books. Even today, my 8-year-old respects books more than anything else. She'll destroy a toy, a £50 toy, and think nothing of it. But a book, she's gutted if she rips a book, accidentally tears a page or something. So that's the power of a book is positioning you as an expert. With the MSP Marketing Edge, I give my clients a book every 9 months or so. And we made a bit of a mistake with the first one because everyone had the same title. So 90 versions of that book were knocking around. And the next one, which is due to come out in sort of autumn 2018, which I'm not going to tell you just about yet because we're just finalising that. But everyone will have a different title. So the contents will be the same, personalised to each marketplace with different case studies, but it'll have a different title to sidestep that. What that allows my clients to do is to position themselves in their local area as an expert. And, imagine going to a networking meeting. I don't like networking meetings, but you can do business there. And you turn up and there's 2 MSPs turn up, and to the average business manager or owner who doesn't know anything about IT support, they're the same business. It doesn't matter actually whether they're any bigger or smaller, they're the same business. One of them turns up with a book and says, well, I'm the author of this book called XYZ. I've got a copy for you. It's $9.99, or I can give you a copy for free. And it's a wholly different proposition because that person is an author. My wife works for the BBC. She's a radio presenter as well. And lots of our friends are BBC lovies, and working out of London, where the 24-hour news channel comes from. And 9 times out of 10, they prefer their experts to be authors. So if someone's going to go and be interviewed on the BBC, and they've got a book, and it's on Amazon, which, by the way, to get on Amazon, you just have to get an international standard barcode number, ISBN. Literally, all my books are on Amazon, but you can't actually buy them from Amazon. It's just automatic. If the author's on Amazon and they've written a book, it doesn't even have to be a best-selling book, that they are more likely to get booked for the BBC and these are the best journalists in the country, working there. It's just an instant expert brand. It's a huge thing to do.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I think it's a fantastic idea. And as with all of these fantastic ideas, it's so simple, and it surprises me. It's remarkable, but it surprises me that more people are not doing it. So let me take that idea a step further then. We've talked about social media. We've talked about business networking. We've touched upon those things. What about what many MSPs perceive as old-fashioned or traditional marketing techniques, such as direct mail? What do you think about those type of techniques?
I love direct mail because I don't know about you, but I get 1 bank statement a month, which I keep for ID purposes because I do property developing and I'm constantly talking to new solicitors. And I get HMRC letters, and that's all I get at home. I don't get anything else. So, imagine the impact. You're sat at home or you're sat at your desk, you've got 2 or 3 brown envelopes, and then an orange envelope turns up and it's got a stamp on it and someone's handwritten it and there's something bulky inside. Which letter are you going to open first? It's going to be the orange envelope, and that's the power of direct mail. In fact, compared to 10 years ago, it's really easy to stand out with direct mail, and the cost doesn't have to be huge. You've got services like DocMail, which is docmail.co.uk. Clunky interface, but great service. You've got Stamp, which is STANN, so STA November P.com. And there's one other, Mail Shop Maker, which is the Royal Mail Service.
And we'll make sure all of those are in the show notes as well.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. So, there's probably other services I haven't mentioned. You can use an online service to do a cloud-based mail merge. You don't even have to get it done in your office anymore. I don't have any staff. Having had 15 at my peak, I made a decision not to directly employ staff for a few years. Got loads of outsourced help, but no staff. So I send out stuff all the time, and we send out 2,000-3,000 postcards, and I do that from Starbucks, pressing keys on a computer and entering a credit card, and it's all done for me. Do you know what? It's faster and cheaper. So direct mail, big thumbs up to that. In fact, here's the ideal thing, Richard. If you want to get new clients, you build an audience, so you find people to talk to, the relevant people. The more niche you can make your offering, the better. A niche doesn't have to be a sector or a vertical. It can be a job title. I know of an MSP that only deals with financial directors, for example, because that's a great audience for them. I know of MSPs that only deal with recruitment agencies or solicitors or accountants or engineering companies. You find an audience, you niche it to make your message more relevant to them, because relevance increases results, and then you educate them using as many different methods as possible. So they see some stuff on LinkedIn, you turn up in their Facebook, whether that's the feed or an advert, they get some stuff from you in the mail, they get some emails from you, and you keep doing that. And you might try, they won't read or consume all of them. But if you try to touch them twice a month, multi-channel, and in a year's time, they may have read 6 to 9 things that interactions, they feel like they know you. That's the power of this. That's the power of things like having a book and building a database and sending content out to people, is people perceive that they know you before they ever speak to you. And it's such a powerful, it's a very long-term strategy. This doesn't give short-term results, but in the long term, you literally become unbeatable, because in an area or a vertical or a niche, you become the go-to person, which is such a powerful thing. I mean, I'll give you an example. I was in vets, dentists, and opticians for 5-6 years, and even now today, I haven't been in those sectors for 2.5 years. Just yesterday, I had a phone call from a vet company in Ireland that wants me to go out and present at their conference. And the guy said, I've got your book sat on my desk. I've had that a couple of years. He's had it 6 years. I read your emails. I haven't sent any emails for 2.5 years, but I've been so front of mind that, at that point, he said, I've been meaning to book you for my conferences for years, and now I can do it. And, so I haven't communicated. I didn't even know who this guy was. I haven't communicated with this guy for 2.5 years because I sold the business and I don't have the right to communicate him anymore. And still he managed to track me down to book me to go and speak at his conference. And, that's the power of that drip, 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 drip. Can you see what that would do to an MSP over like a 10-year period?
It's incredibly powerful, yeah. Do you ever now, let me rephrase the question. What frustrates you about MSPs? If you could ever find yourself in a position where you want to slap an MSP owner around the back of the head because they've said something that they believe is unique to them, but you see with every MSP owner ever, what is that thing? What frustrates you about working with MSPs?
Oh my God, there's such a long list.
Try to narrow it to just one if you could.
Okay. Okay, probably the number one is the business owner being dragged into technical solutions. So I appreciate when you're a 1-2 man band, you can't get away from that. But I work with owners who will have, 3 or 4 first line, a second line, a third line. They'll have plenty of technical resource, and you'll catch them answering tickets or picking up the phone. And that makes me want to shake someone so hard, because when it's so hard to get yourself away from, I talk about being trapped. I talk about working in the business and how you need to spend more time working on the business. And my business grew, dramatically when I spent more time working on it than in it. So I was working on growing the business rather than doing the things the business does. Someone's got to do that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be you. So I think once you've freed yourself, and that's the hardest thing to do, once you've freed yourself from the day-to-day doing in the business, so many people then they don't know what to do with that time, that they find themselves just faffing, fiddling, doing things like let's review 10 suppliers. Let's not review 10 suppliers. Let's get some marketing done. And that, I think that's the biggest frustration is people just, I think because they don't know what to do with their time, having freed it, so they just default back. Most of the MSP owners I know are techs. they're techs who built a business around being a tech, so they default back to being techs. And you're better off actually going and spending time with your kids, or going to the cinema, or just go for a 10-mile walk. I love going for 10-mile walks because it takes hours. If I go down a canal, because I can't back out halfway through. I can't get a cab because I'm literally in a canal in between two towns, and it means I've got to commit and get through to the end of the walk. And you always end up at the end of it with a brilliant idea that's just popped into your head that couldn't have done if you were dealing with Facebook and emails and tech support tickets and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think allowing themselves to be dragged back in. Yes, is the biggest frustration.
Absolutely, and I would share that frustration as well. So, very conscious of time. You're a busy man, doing lots of different things that we've touched upon here. I can't let you go though, Paul, without touching on something that's not MSP related but incredibly important. You're a fellow Doctor Who geek, the same as me, right?
Oh, Doctor Who! Do you know what? Scrap the rest of the podcast. Let's go on. Let's do a Doctor Who podcast.
The Who cast, yeah.
Let's do it. I am when I was a kid, it was good, but it wasn't that good. And then when it rebooted in 2005, and my wife tolerates it, and she will watch it with me, and it's become an occasion. And obviously, we've got Jodie Whittaker coming up soon as the new female Doctor, which is just going to be brilliant. She's such a good actress. And I've visited the actual TARDIS set twice. I visited two. So if you and I can geek out for 10 seconds, I've visited both of Matt Smiths. So when they... do you remember there used to be the Doctor Who experience in Cardiff?
Yes, I loved it there. Yeah.
So I visited. They used to do TARDIS tours as part of that, but about 2 years before that opened, I can't remember how I did it, but I somehow managed to go and visit the actual TV set in where they used to film it somewhere obscure in the middle of Wales. And I remember touching the TARDIS, and it was just so magical. It was so magical. And then bizarrely, a few years later, I met the guy who built that set, who was working with opticians. He was a business development guy working with opticians, and he gave me a Dalek plunger or something like that, which is yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's talk more Doctor Who. You really should do it.
Let's do another podcast just about yeah.
Who's all right? You answer this question for me. Who's your favourite Doctor?
I'll answer that in two ways. The first one I'll say is my Doctor was Peter Davison.
Yes, ditto.
Growing up, the fifth Doctor. And my favourite Doctor though is probably Tom Baker. So I'll go back and watch the fourth Doctor episodes again and again and again. So,
but your favourite new Doctor?
Favourite new Doctor would be Matt Smith.
Obviously, you're wrong. But David Tennant every day.
We are dangerously getting close to filling up this podcast, talking about Doctor Who, and perhaps some of our American listeners, especially, will be going, "What?" So we will draw a veil over that conversation there. Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thanks for sharing all the wisdom that you did. I couldn't agree more with a lot of the stuff that you're saying about how MSPs need to tackle marketing, and you're ideally positioned to help them with that. If people want to find out more, I know we've got a special link, haven't we, for Tubblog listeners? Tell us more about that. How do people get in touch with you?
Yep. So I've got this book, which I've already declared it cost me 49 pence to print, so I might as well get it into the hands of more people. It is a paperback book. It's written especially for this for MSPs. If you go to, and I know the link will be in the notes, but it's itsupportmarketing.co.uk/tub, TUBB, and I'll send you a copy of the book. I'll send it to English listeners, American listeners around the world. There's a PDF that you'll get. But you're more than welcome to go and get a copy of that book.
Fantastic. And it's a great book, very professional, looks brilliant as well. Thank you for sending me a copy of that. Paul, I've really enjoyed our time today. I suspect you and I could sit down and talk Doctor Who, let alone MSP stuff for hours and hours and hours. Would you, I'm almost certain people are going to want you to come back on and talk more about not just Doctor Who, but marketing as well. So we'll have to sort that out at some point in the future. But Paul Green, thanks for joining me today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Richard.
Thanks for listening to Tub Talk, the podcast for IT business owners. You can find the show notes and bonus content for this interview, along with dozens of other interviews with IT business leaders, over at www.tubblog.co.uk. If you enjoyed this podcast, then we'd really appreciate you rating and reviewing the show over at iTunes. It helps the show reach new listeners. Tune in for our next episode when Richard speaks to his latest guest for more valuable insights into the world of business and IT. Thanks for listening, and we'll speak with you next episode. Have a great day.
If your clients use Office 365 or Exchange, then I have no doubt you come across those with ridiculously large mailboxes. The users who accidentally delete messages and then have no way of getting them back, and also some who you just know are going to click a message that's going to bring ransomware their way. MailStore is the email archiving software that enables businesses to keep a perfect, tamper-proof, encrypted and de-duplicated copy of all their messages that's instantly available via Outlook or via a responsive web interface. Available as a free 30-day trial and as both a server edition and a service provider edition that you can host centrally on your own hardware to service all of your clients, MailStore and UK Disti Zen Software have a limited introductory offer for Tub Talk listeners that's not to be missed. Head on over to mailstore.co.uk/TubTalk for details.
Hey team, this is Richard again. Just one more thing before you take off, and that is MSP Insights. Now, every Tuesday, I share my thoughts on the business of IT with you, the managed service community. Thousands of managed service providers already subscribe to MSP Insights. It's easy to sign up, easy to cancel. MSP Insights is basically a short email from me every Tuesday without fail with advice on growing your IT business, plus cool resources I've found, discovered, or started exploring that week. It's kind of like my diary of cool things and often includes articles or books I've read, tools I've discovered, and events I think you'd be interested in, often sent to me by my friends and Tub Talk podcast guests. So if that sounds fun, a short tiny bite of MSP goodness every Tuesday, and you'd like to try it out, just go to go.tub.co/Tuesday. That's go.tub.co/Tuesday. Drop in your email and you'll get the very next one. Thanks for listening.